Let's do it. Let's do it. Time for the one, the only Drew Blazsik. So much going on in our own community regarding economies and money issues. And the one who brings us all the information from a Catholic perspective, Drew Blazsik. Good morning, Drew.
Good morning, Dave. How's it going with you?
Fabulous, fantastic, because it's Friday, and all the scripts that I use on Friday start with an F.
Yeah.
Fabulous, fantastic, philopolous, and stuff like that.
And faith and finance, yeah, it all kind of rings true. And congratulations on the birth of a brand new baby boy.
Yes, Leo Samuel was born, I think 4 days ago now.
Nice.
Well, thank you for contemplating the name David and then rejecting it.
Yeah, and Ron.
My middle name is David. So
is it?
Well, there we go.
Just throwing it out there,
that.
But Leo, what a great name.
Leo, and what kind of goes in with Leo the 13th that wrote the great encyclical. So
and maybe we got a Leo the 14th coming up. We don't know.
I brought that up. I actually saw the bishop a few days ago because my daughter was confirmed, and I brought that up, and I said maybe it'd be Leo the 14th, and he thought about it. He's like, "You're right. It would be Leo the 14th." So I got some brownie points. I think.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like looking it over and saying, I got my top 6 best Catholic influential economists.
Oh, good.
That has influenced the church. And I got a little summary of each one and then kind of their books. I read some of them, and I would recommend if anybody wants to study in economics and understand the Catholic view. So the number one I'm going to start with is, I brought him up a bunch of times, is Heinrich Pesch.
Heinrich Pesch.
Yeah, you've mentioned him before.
Yep, he wrote. He's very influential with it. So he was a German Jesuit economist who developed the system of solidarism, which combining Thomistic moral philosophy with modern economic theory. His major contribution was founded solidarism, a third way between capitalism and socialism, emphasizing the common good and justice with society and corporation over competition. So he was really big of. We always think about when you take these economic courses, it's between capitalism and socialism, but it's really there's a different way, and it's not taught anywhere in our books, which is the Catholic, I think, economist way.
And what strikes me, look, and I'm not trying to put people into categories, but Heinrich Pesch, you very rarely think of the Irish as being kind of the head of on the economic side,
Irish? Heinrich.
Heinrich. Isn't that?
Yeah, I hear you there.
Oh,
that was a horrible attempt at me. All right, never mind.
We need to pull a Heimlich maneuver on you.
He also, his work, Heinrich.
Sorry.
For a second I looked, I was like, he's German.
Yeah.
I had to look twice.
Yeah,
I didn't get a lot of sleep last night with the...
I'll bet, yeah.
But his work heavily influenced Pope Pius XI Quadragesimo Anno in 1931. So he was pretty big. His textbooks, which I own, the National Economy, it's the textbook of national economy, and then another one he did was Ethics in the National Economy. You can get those books for a pretty good price. Then he also wrote a treatise that is very expensive. If you looked it up, it's like $1,200. Unfortunately, the person that translated it did it very expensive, and there is other books that talk about, Labor and Capitalism, which the conflict between usury, which I can't remember the name, but it's a big book, and it really just summarizes his whole treatise, and he uses a lot of his works.
I mean, and thanks be to God that he focused on this area, right? It's very, very important, but you don't find a lot of folks concentrating on economic structures and all that stuff in the church.
I agree. And then number 2 I got here is Wilhelm Emanuel von Kettler from 1877. He's a German bishop.
More modern.
2 Germans in a row.
Yeah, right.
He was an early pioneer of Catholic social thought and advocated for workers' rights and economic justice on this. His major contribution was labor's rights, the dignity of the work, the state intervention for the common good, ahead of most 19th century Catholic leaders in this regard. His writings directly shaped the thinking behind Rerum Novarum, the first great social encyclical by Pope Leo the 13th. Maybe my son was named after him.
I mean, and you think about his timing right before Industrial Revolution and the abuse of so many of these things. So
because when I was reading about him, I wanted to kind of go back for a few things. Is that when you had the Greeks believed labor was for the slaves. They were philosophers. And it was really Catholics that brought up the dignity of the worker and how important labor is. And then you had the influence of capitalism, and it's very hard to define in the 1500s, where they were, in a way, during that time, it was very brutal, where they're forcing people off their content way of life, how they could survive. And then you got into the socialism. So all these different economic systems were changing. And then you had these Catholic economists around the 1800s really speaking the Catholic worldviews. Most influential works is The Labor Question in Christianity and Freedom, Authority, and the Church. I don't know if we have enough time to go for the next one.
Yeah, you got a few minutes, sure.
And then number 3, a gentleman named Oswald von Neil Bruning. He's from 1890 to 1991.
Oh, wow.
He was a Jesuit theologian and economist who served as the principal draft of the church's most important early 20th century social encyclical. He bridged Thomistic ethics and modern economic political systems, introducing refined concepts of justice, labor, and authority. He was a key architect of Quadragesimo Anno in 1931, helping the Catholic economic teaching and formally articulate subsidiarity. So he's the one, and if you ask me, subsidiarity is the most important, I think, Catholic idea of what we have. We have such a centralized system where all the power goes to the top. Right. And what he's saying is that it should always be made at the most local level. All decisions, if you can make it local, you should have that, because then individuals have more control over things rather than the centralized banks, centralized powers in D.C., and it kind of takes all the power away from individuals and kind of puts everybody into one box.
Yeah, and such a big point of discussion in the Catholic Church now. Did he help define that, or was subsidiarity something that he just continued to build upon?
I mean, I think it's more he built upon it. I think that's been always a Catholic principle. But with all these things going on, from capitalism and then the swing over to socialism, communism, which the church came out to condemn, he was really promoting the idea that localized, and I would argue that's what America was founded on, is more local power, right? State rights, and townships that should have authority over things rather than the state of Ohio dictating certain aspects.
Well, and when you talk to him about him in particular, he's speaking to current economic structures. He's not talking about economic structures from he's 1991 he passed. By the way, lived over 100 years. For goodness sake, he must have been doing something right.
Yeah, I'd like to know what he was eating.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So he must have been doing pretty well there. But so and then so his most influential works, Quadragesimo Anno, 1931, that we talked about in this radio, Reorganization of the Social Economy and Capitalism and Catholicism, 1954. And I looked them up, a majority of all these books. Other than Heinrich Pesch's treatise, which is $1,200, I don't think too many people want to purchase. These are all pretty well priced.
Okay, and they're pretty accessible.
They're pretty accessible. And then if we have more time, I got number 4, which is tied between G.K. Chesterton and Hilaire Belloc.
Oh, okay.
So English Catholic thinkers, both from England, who founded the economic philosophy of distributism. And that's the really another way of putting all those different principles together into one economic system. And it's really, it's the same thing, distributism. It almost sounds like a socialist idea when you say that.
Yeah,
distribute. Remember Obama ran into Joe the plumber?
Right.
But what this really is, distributism is really that the common good of the land that we own in, let's say, Toledo, should be used for the people. And the ones who could maintain the land should. The ones who could farm the land should. And we shouldn't be outsourcing our profits of food and certain common good things that really could help out to other countries or other areas. It should be for the people. And actually, I read some things about it that it goes as far as if you had someone that had a bunch of land that wasn't using it for the common good, they would teach that the state would have the authority to take it away and give it to someone that would produce, because that land is for. And I remember the thing with in California with the water. They sold the water reserve to an individual in 1994,
right,
and now that man's making a profit. And I think that's where the distributism would say, no, that's the government of the local government should have the authority to determine what that resource should go to.
Right.
And true, so much of this is based on godly people inhabiting a community, right? And so
Yes.
sometimes, you hope that the lower things of man don't take over, like greed and all those things that tend to get in the way.
But it's no surprise we have so many great Catholic economists, because we have so many great Catholics in every field. So thank you, Drew.
Yeah, and I got 5 and 6. I'll do it next week.
Awesome.
And G.K. Chesterton in the list. I have to tell you,
like
I'm a little surprised by that. Didn't realize he had a voice on the economic side of things. So,
Yeah.
a brilliant man. Love
Drew
it. Thank
Blazsik, ladies and gentlemen, and Faith in Finance. And I hope you can get some sleep soon.
I'll try.
And congratulations on that newborn, Leo David. I know that's going to require a change in his name, but I think it's the right way to go.
It's worth it, though.
It honors both you and me. I mean, come on. Come on.